with the playoffs starting and basketball every night or virtually every night in the later rounds, guys, I don't know. How are you going to manage keeping up with all of the TV? Because this is a great time for TV right now. Hacks is back, which I absolutely love that show. Your Friends and Neighbors is back. The Boys is back. It's a busy time in TV in the spring, but now you got to balance with playoff basketball. Are there any shows you guys are going to still find time to watch, even with all the basketball?
I'll be watching a lot of YouTube videos about basketball, like recaps and previews and stuff like that. I'm kind of a nut when it comes to watching a bunch of like basketball on YouTube. And I am a nut when it comes to watching TV shows. I will find time. I just started watching Peaky Blinders, like I avoided it forever. And I started watching. I'm super into it. I'm on season 3 right now, and I will find a way, some way, somehow, to continue watching my Peaky Blinders binge while watching OKC Thunder playoffs.
I would like to bring up a show and ask if either of you miss it at all. Speaking of shows coming back, this one's not coming, I guess, not coming back in its usual form. But inside the NBA, how much have you guys watched it this year? And to me, it's like I would watch it a lot during the playoffs or during the season, but it's such a staple come playoff time because they're on almost every night. How much of that is do you miss? How much of you sought it out on ESPN? I'd love to hear just your year with with that Charles and Ernie show.
For me, it's changed. I don't know. It's hard to put your finger on it, but it doesn't feel quite the same as it was on TNT. I still enjoy it. I haven't watched it as much, but when I have watched it, I still enjoy it, but I wouldn't say I enjoy it. It's kinda like when a reboot happens of a show that you love, and it's the same cast and everything, like, you can't it's like when Arrested Development came back. I still enjoyed it. It was Arrested Development. It was good, but was it as good as the original run? No, and that's kinda how I feel about it.
Yeah, I thought
I
I
haven't
would.
really
Go ahead, John.
watched it this yeah, I haven't really watched it, during the regular season, but I probably will during the playoffs because once I enter playoff mode, my mind just shifts a little bit, and I'm a little bit more like Brandon, where it's eat, sleep, drink, basketball.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
I've been surprised at how little I've watched it this year and how much I haven't really thought about it. Not that I'm watching other pre and post game shows by any means, but I for something that we've like enjoyed for so long, I was surprised at how little I thought about it this year.
Well, Brandon, you mentioned reboots, and, I guess we should actually talk about basketball, but I did just watch the season finale of the Scrubs reboot, and the whole season was excellent. That's classic Scrubs, one of the best reboots I think ever done, and if people haven't watched the Scrubs reboot, it is worth taking some time out of your playoff basketball schedule to catch up.
Nice. Added to my list.
Welcome back to the Daily Thunder podcast. I'm John Napier, publisher of Daily Thunder, and I'll be your host today. Alongside me today is Daily Thunder beat writer Brandon Rahbar and Daily Thunder contributor Ryan Woods. Guys, you ready for the playoffs?
I'm pumped. I'm ready. I'm excited. I cannot believe it's actually here. It honestly feels like the playoffs just ended, like the 2025 playoffs, like game 7, holding up the Larry O'Brien trophy. It seems like that was just like a couple of months ago. So it's wild to me that we are in the playoffs, but yeah, I'm excited for this run.
I agree with Brandon. I remember everything about the day that like game 1 against the Rockets and the anticipation for the banner and the rings and all that. I remember like vivid details about the day that had nothing to do with the game. It just doesn't feel that long ago. It's really wild that we're back already.
Yeah, and I don't. It feels kind of different to me this playoffs than last. I was so excited for the playoffs last season because we had watched that excellent year that the Thunder put together. And while I'm excited about the playoffs this year, it just feels a little different because I don't know. I just feel like I never got a good run of the Thunder being healthy. It was all these different lineups together, key players being out for so much of the season that it just seems kind of a weird. My brain just hasn't wrapped itself around like, oh, now it's time for the playoffs.
Well, the season was strange because one, it felt like a blur, like it happened so fast. And then you can almost like chop it up into three different segments, like the 24-1 start where they were dominant and there was all the talk of could they beat the Warriors win record? Could they join the 70 win club? And then there's that middle segment where by their own standards they struggled a bit and some worry started to creep in like amongst some fans like, oh no, like, what's going to happen here? Are they going to get the one seed? Is this going to hurt Shea's MVP campaign? And then you got the last part of the season where they went 19-1 before they sat all their guys in the last two games and they looked dominant and they finally got healthy. They got Jared McCain, Shea's MVP campaign. It looks like a wrap. They got the number one seed. The Nuggets and the Spurs are all on the other side of the bracket. So kind of everything like worked out really well for the Thunder and for Thunder fans. But maybe because there was like three specific, like clear segments of the season, and because it all went by so fast, it just seems like the playoffs are like snuck up on us. And it's like, here,
Yeah, I remember a big thing for the second, the JDub second hamstring bit was like, is there going to be enough time to get him back to game speed and rhythm and all of that before the playoffs start? I don't I don't know about you, Brandon. I feel like he's those last couple games, the speed and the attention to detail, it looked like himself. And I would definitely like we haven't really talked about this, but like I'm so interested in Brandon's thoughts this year. I just feel like Brandon is so in tune with what's going on, like has a very unique feel for this team this year. So I'm very interested. I'm going to be asking questions back to Brandon just as much as John tonight. I'm just so curious like how Brandon feels about this team at this time of the year.
well, on the JDub health specifically, since you're asking about that one, he says in these post-game press conferences, the wrist feels better than it has since it got hurt, and that is not an issue whatsoever, and it's just been a matter of the hamstring and getting up to speed. And like you, watching him, especially watching him live and in the arena, he's got all the explosiveness and athleticism and strength that you wanna see. Like, he is attacking the rim in these last several games like nonstop, and he looks like J-Dub out there. Like as far as like the shooting touch, he's not putting up the volume of threes that he was before. Like maybe, the perfect scenario, he would have had a longer ramp up for that, but he looks healthy and he looks explosive. So I think that's really, really encouraging sign.
Was it the was it the Laker game or the Clipper game where he, like, outran 4 guys for that loose ball and, like, beat everyone down the floor? I After that play, I was like, "Man, that is." I was holding my breath that entire sequence, like, please don't get hurt, please don't get hurt." He just looks like you're saying, like, really explosive and confident, and I think he even said, Brandon, after one of these games, like, my legs feel really fresh. I feel like I haven't played much this year. And I mean, that is a huge bonus, unintended. The Thunder would have rather had to have him all year. They would have rather had him all year, I should say. But one positive that he's had missed so much time is like he's really fresh and hasn't had the miles on him that a lot of these other guys have had.
And I think you bring up a good segue to a question I had was obviously SGA is the most important player on the team, and the Thunder's chances for a championship are going to depend on SGA. But between J-Dub and Chet, if you had to pick who mattered more to the championship aspirations of this team, who you picking?
Well, to kind of piggyback a little bit on Ryan's point about JDub, I do think that JDub having fresh legs, not playing very much this season, will help, and his wrist is healthy, so that's different than last season. We saw how dominant he was in that postseason run. And Chet even talked today at practice how last year he didn't really feel healthy. Of course, he was coming back from that hip injury. He was never 100%. And he was incredibly important in that playoff run last year. Like the Thunder do not win the championship last year without JDub in the playoff run. They do not win without Chet in that playoff run. And now, right now, at this moment, they are both healthy going into the playoffs, which is a big deal. If I had to choose one though, I would go with Chet. I would have chosen J-Dub last year, just because Chet, he just unlocks so much offensively and defensively. Obviously, like as the anchor on defense and the rim protection, and then on offense. This year he's been the second guy for most of the season. Just because we haven't seen a full season of J-Dub, just like last year, we didn't have a full season of Chet. J-Dub kind of became the second guy last year, and Chet's kind of become the second guy this year. Now that could shift in the playoffs as J-Dub's, like getting more minutes and the role increases and his health is there and stuff like that. But right now, if I had to choose, I would go with Chet just because of what we've seen this season. And I'm picking on this season. It's playoffs, so it makes sense to me. But yeah, those guys are both incredibly important. But Chet, I don't think there's anybody on the team that replicates his role, whereas J-Dub fills so many roles, but, like, some of the ball handling and shot creation now can go to AJ Mitchell. Some of the scoring can be split up between AJ and Isaiah Joe and some other players and some of the playmaking and all those things. The versatility on defense is obviously huge, but nobody can really do what Chet does.
And Brandon, don't you think Chet's when he's at his peak defensively, it raises the floor of the team so high that it allows for other guys to fill in the stuff that J-Dub does so well. Maybe not all from the same person, but like you're saying, in pieces. When and I think some of that offense that you're talking about can also come from Chet. When he's at his best, I think he's really comfortable on the offensive end. But the him anchoring that defense and deterring shots, blocking shots, being able to switch out on guards and hold his own. When he's at his peak defensively, I think that's the second most important thing to this team behind what Shea brings.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Like if going into next season, like who am I ranking as the second and third best player? I think they're 2A and 2B. Any given night, it could be J-Dub or it could be Chet as the next best player behind Shea. But just because like this season is a bit of a different iteration than what last season was. And Jada was that guy for the majority of the season, the number 2. And then this year it's been Chet. So to me, that'll kind of carry over into the playoffs and his importance. Yeah, it's huge what he can do on both sides.
And of course, Brandon, I mean, you made a really smart point about, J-Dub is a complete package and the things that he offers, but you can replicate some of those skill sets with other players to fill in the gaps. Chet's one of a kind on the defensive end. There's nobody the Thunder have that can replicate what Chet does. Really, there's maybe one, two, three other players in the NBA that can replicate what Chet does. And so I tend to agree, like defensively, his ability to just swallow opponents up on the inside and just take away opportunities at the paint. Excuse me. He is a unique talent. He's had a great year. This has been a breakout year for Chet.
Yeah, and I expect him to be third team, maybe even second team All NBA. But at the minimum, I think he will be third team All NBA. And it's funny because last year Chet got hurt for half the season, more than half the season, and J Dub ended up being an All Star, third team All NBA, and All Defense. And then this year, unfortunately, J Dub misses more than half the season, and I think Chet is going to be an All Star, All NBA, and All Defense. He has been incredible this year. I feel like if Wemby did not exist, Chet's like stature and reputation amongst just NBA fans and the NBA world at large would be so much higher. But unfortunately, he gets compared to Wemby. They're always like paired together. But Chet is a top two defender in the world. And oh, yeah, he's also a big threat on the offensive end from 3-point range. He's added a mid-range this year, and then, of course, what he can do at the rim. He's such a well-rounded player, and by the way, he's still just 23 years old, and he's still getting better and just kinda still scratching the surface.
Well, and what I think he's done better on the defensive end, it's really stood out to me, and it doesn't show up in the stats like it does with Wemby and the blocks. It's how many shots he takes away. Like people, getting past that front line and into the paint. I mean, people don't put shots up against Chet because he recovers so well, he positions himself so well, and he takes away so many opportunities.
Yeah, the classic "never mind" stat that,
That's
That's
right.
that somehow Wemby only gets credit for, but, Chet gets those all the time as well. And yeah, so he deters so many shots. He is an incredible player, and I am excited to see him get his flowers in these, awards, these postseason awards that he deserves.
The Thunder are loaded coming into the year. We see the leap that Chet has made this season. JDub is back and healthy. SGA is going to be a repeat MVP almost certainly. They added McCain, who's been a really big contributor. So I'm going to phrase it this way. You've got last year's championship winning team versus this year's version of the Thunder. In a 7-game series, are you picking the 2025 Thunder or the 2026 Thunder?
Ooh, you wanna go first, Ryan?
I like this question.
Yeah, this is a good one.
Um, I I've just been thinking of in comparison to last year, like the team obviously hadn't won yet, and I think there was a determination and a hunger to kind of avenge what happened in 24 and to just I guess just show what they had learned and draw on some of the experience that they gained in 24. And there was just a drive to that team last year, like an every night type of deal. And I think you saw their peak a lot more during the regular season last year than we saw this year. And I think there's certainly some injury context to that. But I also think like there were nights where you saw you saw enough effort to get wins, but not necessarily like we know what 10 out of 10, we know what fifth gear feels like and we know what it requires. And you might not see it tonight. Um, but I think there's going to be a time in this first round series where we see it and this question becomes a pretty easy 2026 Thunder because of the addition of AJ. AJ's injury last year, I don't think we would have seen this level of AJ last year had he not gotten hurt. But just the fact that he didn't really get to be that involved in the playoff run, shout out to those game one and the finals minutes. But like he's a very different guy physically. Like he really worked on his body over the offseason. He's a much better defender than he was last year. And the ball handling and the creation, it's really insane what he's been. Like Brandon, correct me if I'm wrong. I think he finished top 10 in EPM for the season, like in the whole league.
I know he was up there for a long time. I can't remember if he ended up finishing there or not. I know that Shea was number 1 and Chet was like number 5 or 6 or something like that.
I
AJ
thought
was
the last time I looked, AJ was ninth.
yeah, that which is wild. He's yeah.
Um, but anyway, like the if the Isaiah Joe stuff translates to the playoffs this year, like I don't think I don't think that last year's team could beat this team. I would say this year's team's better if those things if AJ's stuff translates and Isaiah Joe, like, if he comes along for the ride, like, that's a different team.
Yeah. So I think on paper, this year's team is better because I think the AJ Mitchell factor is the biggest factor. Like you're adding a player who on any given night, maybe the Thunder's fourth best player. I mean, like to me, he's like in the grouping now. Obviously, you got Shea, Chet, and JDub as the stars. But after that, to me, he's in that grouping with Isaiah Hartenstein, Lou Dort, Alex Caruso, and Cason Wallace. Like those, he is that good. And also the role that he plays is so incredibly important as like the third ball handler, shot creator, playmaker. He's such a positive in every area. He's very J-Dubbish and where he's kind of a jack of all trades, doesn't really have any weaknesses. So I think that AJ factor is big for making this team better. I agree with the Isaiah Joe thing. I think his role in the playoffs will be bigger. He's proven it this year. His shot diet and versatility and quick trigger. I think all those things improve this season, and I think he will be a factor in the playoffs. Jared McCain, I don't know how many minutes he gets any given night. Maybe depend on the game, maybe depend on the matchup, maybe depend on the series, but he's a weapon for sure that you can use if needed. And then the internal development, guys like Cason Wallace and Jay Will getting better. Also, right now, the health of the team, Chet is healthier. JDub does not have a torn ligament in his shooting wrist. So all those things on paper, plus just the championship experience. So on paper, this is a better team. I do agree. There's something to be said about the hunger of the team last year. I think that this team is going to be hungry in the playoffs. There's also
Yeah.
something to be said that this team was so injured all year long and kind of put it on cruise control sometimes, and we're still able to come away with the best record in the entire league, even with the Spurs like nipping at their heels for like the last couple of months. Incredibly impressive. So if I were to choose, John, to answer your question like 15 minutes later, I am going to say this year's Thunder in 6, which is crazy because last year's team won a championship.
I appreciate that. I'm gonna ask the same thing of Ryan. I mean, so Brandon said 2026 Thunder in 6. What are you picking?
Yeah, I didn't put it into series context. I would say this year's team in 6 or 7, probably 7.
Yeah, I'd put this year's team in 5, but probably based more on potential. I mean, you made a really good point, Ryan, about how in the regular season, in the 24-25 regular season, the team just brought it every night. And I never felt like the team this year had, maybe I guess there were runs where they were bringing it several nights in a row, but they would show flashes of what they're capable of, but never the full 48 minutes on a consistent basis. And I think that's because they had nothing to prove, right? The regular season was like, we just need to do what we need to do to get to the playoffs, get the number one seed. But this team, with all the talent that it has, now the healthiest it's ever been, locked in for 48 minutes, I'd be terrified if I'm
Yeah.
the opponents.
And there's so many things to be said about what you gain from experience, but one of those things is you find out that your best isn't needed every single night. That's I think that's one thing that they've learned is that we don't have to expend the same amount of energy, and it's just really hard to do it. To go 100 and I think they played, what, 103 games last season, I guess 104 if you count the Bucks loss in the play-in or in the, in-season tournament final. That's 104 games. There's it would only be it would be it would be more strange if they went all out again, this year after all that it took physically and mentally and such a shortened off season to turn around and like go at that pace again. And like they lost 4 less games this year. It's just insane. This team is so so good.
Yeah, and 2 of those games were at the end where
Yes, they
no,
they
they didn't
they
play
rested
anybody.
everyone. Right.
Yeah. And I do think that, like, when we've seen this team go full throttle, like, look at that Lakers game. the one where Luca and Austin Reeves were both healthy. There was so much hype going into that game. There was like MVP buzz for Luca, and the Lakers were red hot at that time. It was on national TV. And so there was like a motivated Thunder, and you saw what happened in that game. And not to say that they would do that to every playoff team in that situation, but they can crank it up a level. And I think there's something to be said. You start off 24-1, coming off a championship. There's the motivation to keep going, and there that kind of carrot of breaking the wins record or joining the 70 win club. And then, you get a couple losses. And I think it's like anything, when you have like all that momentum and the momentum breaks, like you lose a little bit of that kind of like, I don't know. I don't want to say motivation. This team is always motivated, so I don't want to throw that out there. But if you're shooting in an open gym and you're like, you've hit like 10 in a row, you're like, ooh, I want to see if I can hit 20 in a row. And you get to like 15, which is great. But then like your next five shots, you don't have the same like focus. You kind of lost your motivation. And so to me, like that middle segment, it was just kind of like that was like not a championship letdown, but finally kind of like putting it on cruise a little bit and still winning and those things. But when this team needs to, when they are motivated, like they will be in these playoffs, we've seen that they can go to another level.
John, did you notice how Brandon mentioned like hitting 10 threes in a row? Like that's something that everybody understands.
Yeah, especially because I don't think I've hit 10 threes in my entire lifetime. So in a row.
Or
um,
layups or free throws or what have you.
yeah, but I do think that when the like they started 24, there was I think Brandon, there was a noticeable drop off once they hit that Spurs section of the season, those couple weeks around Christmas time. I the that was when they missed, they missed on 16. And it was like, well, okay, I guess we're not going to break the all-time record. So, it just felt like there was, and a lot of what we're saying goes against the 0-0 mentality. I do want to say that, but yeah, I there were times in certain games where it was a great reminder of like, here's the fastball for a half, and like Shea threw a behind the back pass to Isaiah Joe in the corner to beat the halftime buzzer, and it was
Yeah.
like 80-30. It was just insane.
Yeah.
So yeah, they've got a fifth gear, and I'm just stoked more than anything to see the crowd and the shirts and the intensity in that arena again, and for playoff games. And yeah, I'm just stoked. And again, like I'm not saying that the crowd was awesome this year. And the teams, like, it was awesome, but I'm just so pumped to see the playoff the playoff version of this team. I really think is going to be something special.
And I think what's interesting is I think there's a consensus here that this team is better, especially better on paper, but better coming in from a health standpoint and then the roster standpoint. And I think we can all agree that when the Thunder turn on that next level, you know, it's really tough for a team to keep up with the Thunder if they're hitting on all cylinders like they did against the Lakers. I think they kind of did the same thing when they beat the Spurs the one time they beat them this season. They were dialed in, they were focused the full 48 minutes, and they blew the doors off the Spurs. But from a path standpoint, if you look at the bracket, the Thunder didn't have necessarily an easy path to the finals. This year, arguably, their path to the finals, or at least the Western Conference Finals, is easier. So, does that make you guys more confident that the Thunder are gonna make the finals this year,
Oh yeah, 100.
assuming health?
Yeah, 100%. Only because I mean it's huge. Honestly, that the fact that the Nuggets and Spurs are on the other side of the bracket is humongous. And you could even add the Wolves to that as well, because you got a first round matchup with a play in team. And then you have a second round matchup with more than likely the Houston Rockets. If not, then a not healthy Lakers team. The fact that you're getting either the Rockets or a not healthy Lakers team instead of the Denver Nuggets like last year, a team that took you to 7, is huge. Like, that is a massive difference, and then all of a sudden, you gotta beat only one of the Nuggets or Spurs. That is massive, and so, yes, obviously, the Western Conference Finals this year would be tougher than last year where they smoked the Wolves in 5 games, and I think that after that Nugget series, probably most people, including us, thought that the Wolves series would be an easier series than what the Nuggets series was, and of course, that proved to be true. Um, but yeah, I think that just the fact when you look at like odds and statistics and probability, just the fact that the path to the Western Conference Finals is so clear, so then you only have to win one series where you're going to have home court advantage to get to the finals. For me, for sure, the path is easier and clearer this year.
Brandon, would you say that I guess this is a Houston versus Minnesota question, but would you say that the next 3 best teams in the West, aside from OKC, are on the other side of the bracket?
I would, yeah. Now, obviously, that would change if Luka and Austin Reeves were healthy. I
Uh-huh,
would put the Lakers above the Wolves.
uh-huh.
I would put the Lakers as like the 4th best team behind the Thunder, Spurs, and Nuggets. But yeah, with the Lakers not being healthy, to me, the Wolves are better than the Rockets. So I do think that the 3 next best teams are over on the other side of the bracket. I would even go so far as to say I thought going in, just based on recent play, going into the playoffs, that the Blazers were arguably the best of those play-in teams.
Uh-huh.
Um, like, I'm not tooting any horn. This is just a one-game sample size call, but I did think that the Blazers were gonna beat the Suns and end up getting that 7 seed, just based on they got Jeremy Grant back, Drew Holiday was healthy. They've been playing so well, and the Suns weren't quite healthy, and they haven't been playing as well as the Blazers have. So even, like, of the play-in teams, I think that the stronger team is over on the other side of the bracket.
Yeah, it's been a I'm still kinda reeling from that Denver San Antonio game on Sunday. I can't believe the result, and I think we we talked about it that night, but, like, what a wild turn of events for the Thunder, and honestly, like, it should be the reward for the 1 seed, that
Yes.
it should be the reward to play, on the more favorable side of the bracket, and sometimes injuries and just the way the seasons go for these teams, it's just there's no way to predict that, and sometimes it doesn't go that way, but this was the 4-5 that I think the Thunder would have wanted, if they could have set the bracket themselves. But yeah, I'm just I'm excited to see a Denver San Antonio series, and obviously, like, to not have to play both of them, I think is a big advantage, a real big advantage for their title chances.
So let's actually talk about the first round matchup. The Thunder are going to play the Suns in that first round as they advanced out of the play-in bracket. Um, predictions. Is it a Thunder in 4, Thunder in 5? What do you guys think?
I've got Thunder in 5. I respect Devin Booker and Dylan Brooks and the wild card that is Jalen Green. Like, on most given nights, I would, not expect a very efficient Jalen Green, but there are those nights where he can go off, and the shooting variance for me is where it really, like, there could be a night where the Thunder just are not shooting well from 3 at all, and the Suns have enough guys between Booker, Brooks, Jalen Green, Grayson Allen, Colin Gillespie that can catch fire from 3. So I think there'll be a night where I don't think there will be, but there could be a night where the shooting variance in Phoenix with the home crowd, they're excited to be back in the playoffs where they could steal a game. So I will choose the Thunder in 5.
Yeah, I think that's where I'll land as well. The the shooting, Brandon, I'm curious, like, last year the Thunder finished, I think, 13th or 14th out of the 16 playoff teams in shooting, from 3. I I wonder, like, what your concern level is for that specific stat going into the playoffs this year. Because I think if you told me the Thunder are going to shoot like league average from three every game. No worse, no less. What would you think their playoff record would be?
I think they'd win the championship.
So 16 and what?
16 and 6.
So that's interesting. That's one less loss than last year.
Okay. Yeah,
And
that's
they'd be jumping up five like 5.5 percentage points from three each game. Um yeah. I part of me part of me thinks like they could really like rip off a 16 and 3, 16 and 4 kind of run um if they shoot like that. As it pertains to the Sun series, like I think that's such a key thing. Like how these early series go is, are they forcing turnovers, which I think the Suns are, they will turn it over. Are you going like can you turn them over? Can you get points in transition off turnovers? And can you hit a decent percentage from three? And if you and that I think that really comes down to like Chet, Dort, Kaysen, Isaiah Joe, those guys that you're probably going to be able to find a decent amount of volume for from three. If they're hitting a 35 to 36% as a group of four guys, I think it's going to be really tough for Phoenix to keep up, which makes me lean four. But we saw what happened last year. Phoenix, I think Phoenix can certainly get a game off of this team.
Yeah, I mean, I agree that the Suns could definitely take one. They took one against the Thunder when SGA was playing, JDub was playing, Chet was playing, and the Suns pulled one out in
Unbelievable shot
Phoenix.
from Booker in that game to win that over Caruso. Incredible shot.
And that's a game where the Thunder didn't shoot really, really well. So sure, I think that could happen. I mean, I'm going to say Thunder and four to be the sunshine pumper among three of us. But Ryan, you bring up a good point about the 3-point shooting because I that is something I'm interested to see how that maps out in the playoffs. Because theoretically, the Thunder's 3-point shooting, I think, really ebbed and flowed this season. But a lot of it was because you were playing 11, 12 guys a night, and your best 3-point shooters were not always taking the highest volume of 3-point shots. In the playoffs, it should be different. But Lou Dort isn't shooting from three as well as he did last year. JDub hasn't really found his 3-point shot. So even though you'll see more of those 3-point shots going to the guys you want to take them, I'm not sure that all the guys, I just don't know how it's going to work out. Because if the Thunder can shoot 35, 36, 37% from three, that they're really dangerous.
They're near unbeatable if they hit 37. Like because if it's 37 as a team, that means Dort probably hit half, and they're really tough when he does that. Like they're really tough if Dort's hitting threes. I think that was the Minnesota game, that Sunday game where Hardenstein and McCain had a couple highlights late. That was another really strong game from three, if I remember correctly. They're really, really tough. That's where those runs of 15-2, 18-2 start hitting, and like that's really hard to recover from against a team that plays defense like the Thunder for 48 minutes. Really, really tough to come back from.
Well, I think we have consensus the Thunder are going to advance out of the first round of the playoffs.
Yes,
Yeah.
agreed.
And Brandon, I think to bring up Dort, like I've been pretty encouraged by his last couple of weeks from from three and just on the defensive end. Like it feels like he's like gearing up, like it's go time.
Yeah, I agree. He is turning it up and getting in rhythm from deep at just the right time. And like you said, even his defense, I think, has looked sharper and more physical and all the things we come to expect from Lou Dort over the last couple weeks. But yeah, you know, in the last several games, he shot 4 of 6 from three, 3 of 5, 2 of 5, 2 of 4, 1 of 4, and 2 of 5. So he is getting in a rhythm right when you want him to.
Those are big. Those are 2 thumbs up kinda numbers, like, OKC would sign up for those every night, aside from that 1 of 4. And then obviously the defense in those last like the Denver game and the Suns game, we are not counting against the ledger for Lou Dort this
Yeah.
year.
Yeah.
Um, the specifically that Laker and Clipper back to back,
Yes.
ish. Good
Absolutely.
stuff from Lou.
Well, let's look at some of the other first round matchups. I think we could probably sit around here and talk basketball and playoffs for hours, but there's a rumor that the Rabars need to get to Target. Um, so I'll say Western Conference series other than the Thunder series, which one are you most intrigued to watch?
Now, the Wolves Nuggets is the low hanging fruit here because that's obviously the best series.
I know where you're going, Brandon, and I'm with you. I
Are you?
go for it.
Yeah.
I'm so excited what you're about to say.
Yeah. But for me, it's Lakers Rockets. Um,
I I was going somewhere else.
or
Continue.
yeah, okay, okay. I like where you're gonna go though too, because I'm into that one as well. But for me, it's Lakers Rockets only for this reason. Well, a couple of reasons. One, it's the Thunder's next round matchup, and so I'm always going to be intrigued by that. But this is LeBron versus KD. This might be the last time we see LeBron versus KD in the playoffs. According to LeBron, this might be the last time we see LeBron in the playoffs, period. I don't believe that. I think he will get a farewell tour, but it's out there. It's possible. And depending on which team and how the Rockets do next season, we don't know how many more runs we have of KD and or LeBron in the playoffs. And it is the Lakers. So to me, like if the Lakers were to win without Luka or Austin Reeves, that is a huge story that LeBron was able to pull that off. And if KD and the Rockets win, which I expect to happen, then you have the Thunder versus KD in the West semifinals in the playoffs, which would just be a massive, massive storyline here in Oklahoma City. So to me, I'm intrigued by that one for a few different reasons.
That's such a great pick. Like, I think there was some thought that going into this year, especially like it starts with Durant in the building for ring night, that this might be a year where like, yeah, it's been 10 years, maybe no. Like it's just not been the year that I think some people thought it might when it comes to the Durant OKC relationship or lack thereof, and to see him in the second round would really be something. Really be something.
Yeah.
I'm gonna pivot though to Spurs Blazers as just a really intriguing. Portland's a bit of it can be a bit of an unknown. Like you really got to know what you're getting into with Denny and with Drew and with Klingon, Jeremy Grant, Tybal, Scoot. Excited to see Scoot play in high stakes games. Um, I'm just Shaden Sharp. My Brandon. How I feel about Shaden Sharp.
Yep.
Um, I'm Sign me up. I'm excited about that series. Not say it's going to go a long ways, but I'm just excited to watch Portland throw a punch at San Antonio and really be physical with them, as opposed to like if that were the Suns. I just don't think there's anyone for Wemby to have to guard or be guarded by in a series against the Suns. And I'm excited to see Klingon give it a go and watch them go and, play Wemby with a wing and have Klingon kind of playing back line. Um, I'm I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued. I'm not saying it's going to be even that competitive, but I'm excited to watch those games. Whereas I wouldn't have been as jazzed about it if it were the Suns playing in that series, just because I don't like the matchup at all for them. But I am very excited about this Portland San Antonio series.
I agree. I think Portland can make them uncomfortable just because they play so hard and that goes a long way in the playoffs, and they do have depth, and they have defenders, and they have size. I think that they can make the Spurs offense uncomfortable, given their defense and just their all-out effort and their youth. Now on the other end, when Portland is trying to score against that Spurs defense, that's gonna be Portland's issue, but I'm very curious to see, like, this matchup as well. This is gonna be a fun one.
It'll be interesting to see how the Spurs do in their first playoff series as well.
Yeah.
But we'll hit them all too. And so I'll mention Nuggets Wolves because the Nuggets winning that game against the Spurs to take the 3 seed actually arguably gave them the more difficult first round matchup. Now, Ant's health status, I think, is going to be a big X factor for how difficult this series is, and I think he's questionable for game 1. But assuming Anthony Edwards is healthy, that's a pretty tough matchup for the Nuggets in the first round.
Mhm.
And that one, I mean, that one could go the distance if both teams are healthy. But let's shift over to the Eastern Conference, guys. Which series are you most intrigued by on that side of the bracket?
Snooze fest all around for me. I I gotta be honest. I I have 0 interest in Detroit Magic. Pistons are gonna take care of business quickly. I mean, Embiid isn't gonna play probably against the Celtics, so the Celtics are gonna take the 76ers pretty easily. I the Raptors Cavs just isn't interesting that much to me. I guess I will go Hawks Knicks because I do believe that the Hawks do have a chance to upset the Knicks. Um, I would not be shocked whatsoever. Like if you're looking through the whole entire NBA landscape and saying what is a potential first round upset, to me that's it. Hawks over Knicks.
I agree. Um, that's probably the juiciest upset pick. As far as series, I'll go Celtics Sixers, Boston Philly. Um, Again, I don't think this one will be as competitive as it will be entertaining. I think the games will be good, even if the Celtics pull them out in the end. I'm excited to see VJ in a series. I'm excited to see Maxi out there against the guards like Derek White. I think that's going to be a really fun matchup, just one on one matchup. The Brandon, like you mentioned, Orlando, Detroit. I mean, where is NBA TV when you need them? Can we get can we get all 4 games on NBA TV? This is a dreadful series. I might not watch a single second of that series, to
I
be
mean,
honest.
let's get all 4 of those games on KSBI.
The CW, maybe. Yeah, that's a brutal one.
No offense to KSBI, by the way. Shout out to KSBI. I was just trying
Yeah, yeah, I can't be. I catch the strays over here.
yeah, my
What a
bad, my bad.
drive-by.
I was just I was just trying to think of, like, the most random, like, local channel I could think of.
PBS.
Well, I mean, I agree with Brandon's assessment that Knicks Hawks is probably the most intriguing on the first round matchups in the East, and the Hawks have had a really good, surprising season, and I think that one has potential to be a fun watch. But I guess my takeaway from this is that Brandon, well, maybe my question is, you love basketball so much. With the snooze fest, as you called it in the Eastern Conference, are you just gonna sneak in some Peaky Blinders instead?
100%. When Pistons Magic is on, when Raptors Cavs is on, and maybe even when Celtics 76ers on, I'm gonna be sneaking in some Peaky Blinders. That's when I'm gonna find the time for sure.
Brandon, do you see the Cavs Raptors series as like a short Cavs series, or do you think it'll be a long competitive series that just isn't any fun to watch?
The latter, which makes it that much worse because at least if it was gonna be, an uninteresting, uninspiring series, at least they could do us the favor of ending it quickly, but so it's probably gonna go 6 or 7.
Ugh.
Well, to wrap us up here, we're just gonna get everybody, on the pod on record of their championship pick and finals matchup pick. Got to do it now before the first round even starts, but then of course there'll be second and third opportunities as the rounds progress. But guys, Brandon, I'll make you go first. Who are your the finals matchup? Who's in the finals? And who's going to win the championship? And in how many games?
I think the Thunder are going to beat the Nuggets in the Western Conference Finals and meet the Celtics in the finals. The matchup that everybody thought was going to happen preseason last year. You got the last two championship teams going at it. I will go with the Thunder in 6.5. I can't choose between 6 and 7. It'll be really stressful for everybody, but I'm going to say Thunder, and I'll go 6 just to save the stress.
I will take the Thunder playing the 3 seed, New York Knicks. I think we're going to get an all blue and orange finals series, and I will take the Thunder in 6 in that series.
I would love a Thunder Knicks finals. I think that would be incredibly fun. It would get amazing ratings. But I don't see it happening. I think Boston's going to get through in the East, so I agree with Brandon. It's going to be a Boston Thunder finals. And, Jason Tatum's back. Boston's running in the form. I'm going to say Thunder in 7.
All the stress.
Yeah, I couldn't choose between 6 or 7, so I'm glad you chose the other one. If I would have said 7, would you have said 6?
Maybe.
Okay,
I don't want it
perfect.
to be 7, but I do want us to win the championship again on our home floor. So I want it to be 5 or 7.
Yeah, I'm with
In
you,
my
but then
in
think
my
about how stressed everybody was going into that game 7. It was
Yeah.
perfect that it happened in OKC on the home court. It was like the storybook season. But man, at the time, if you could have right before game 7 tipped off, if you could have been asked like, "Hey, would you have rather just won this in 6?" I think most Thunder fans would have said yes.
my scenario is less stress and a closeout win at Madison Square, which I think would be a pretty cool feather in the cap for this era of Thunder basketball.
Well, I think we did a good job of previewing the playoffs in the first round. So um, claps all around, and Brandon, you can make that target run you need to make.
I will get it. Anything you guys need while I'm there?
Not
Thanks.
Yeah,
for the first
actually,
round.
yeah, just shoot me a text whenever you get to aisle 14. I've got like 3 things.
I
3
got you.
things I'll have you pick me up. Yeah.
I got you.
Yeah, appreciate that. Appreciate that.
No problem. Hey, good show, guys. This was fun.
Yeah, this was great. Well, and with that target plug, I think that's a great place to end the show. Thanks
No
for
free
tuning in
ads.
to
No
the
free ads, by the way. No
no
free
free
ads.
ads. I'm gonna hit up Target and make sure they pay for that plug. But thanks, thanks everybody for tuning in to the Daily Thunder podcast. I'm John Napier, host of the podcast, and on this one I've got Brandon Rahbar and Ryan Woods. If you enjoy the show, make sure to subscribe to the Daily Thunder podcast on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss any of our future playoff episodes. And if you like what you hear, do us a favor and leave us a rating and review wherever you get your podcasts. And we'll be back in your feed soon.